Welcome. Well, we're in the Red Room right now, but we're going to take a short field trip all the way to the next room to show you exactly how setup in SoundID Reference works. You may recall that a while back I did a video on the integration of SoundID Reference into the Universal Audio Apollo interface ecosystem. When I was first kicking the tires on this software, this is long before Apollo was involved, I really couldn't envision exactly how this process would look. So getting this software was a leap of faith. Now I want to show you what's involved. So I revisited my setup process and I've documented it here for you to see right now. We are going to recalibrate our SoundID system profile. I want to take y'all along for the ride because I haven't seen a whole lot of videos that show how this process works. So I'm going to do a screen capture, I'm going to move the mic around, I'm going to play the tones, and then we'll see where we end up. Now the setup is roughly a three-part process, and the process entails the following things. First, calibrating your setup, gain staging, and signal chain for the test. Second, measuring the speaker dimensions. Third is mapping out the room's frequency response. The software guides you quite easily, in fact, through the calibration and profile creation process. So part one, test calibration. You're guided through just the setup process. So like, do you have the phantom power on? Is your measurement mic not sounding through the speakers, which it shouldn't be? Are your levels correct? Enter the measurement microphone's ID number. If you have a calibrated mic from Sonarworks, the individual microphone's calibration profile will show up here. Part two is speaker placement measurements. So the software plays a tone while you measure it with the mic, the measurement mic, about a ½ inch from the left speaker.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress. Left speaker done.
Then you repeat the same process a ½ inch from the right speaker.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress.
Right speaker done.
And then somehow it shows you the distance between the two speakers. I measured this with a tape measure to be sure it was correct. And it was. Then you put the measurement microphone in your listening position at ear level. Now my results. In my case, the two speakers were 5 feet 1 inch from each other, and the distance from each of my ears to each of the speakers was also 5 feet 1 inch. Of course, in real life, when you're mixing, you're going to be moving around, so that distance will change slightly. But this was a good result. Also, it was an equidistant triangle, which is exactly what you want. Now, in part three of this process, the software plays a series of 37 sweep tones, which will be used to measure your room and its frequency response. Before each sweep tone, the software sends out a sonar-like ping, which locates where you are, and you move the measurement microphone into the specified spot. You'll see this, so it'll make more sense then. When it senses you've gotten into the spot, it tells you to hold still and plays the sweep tone. The 37 instances map out the room, and it takes about 10 minutes or so to complete. At the end of this process, it has created a profile for the set of speakers you were using. Hopefully this is being helpful for you. If you want to subscribe, please do. But to draw some conclusions from my own experience. First off, my speakers now sound fantastic, and they sound even better than before when I made my last calibration profile. That would have been about 5 years ago. The speakers that I'm calibrating are an Atom System 110, which is a 2.1 system. And I've calibrated it as 2.0. Now, what does that mean? 2.1 means stereo speakers with a subwoofer, and 2.0 means stereo speakers without a subwoofer. You can treat your stereo system that has a subwoofer like it's a 2.0 system with SoundID if you're going to use it without independent control of the subwoofer. With this system, I never separate the mid-range, high-frequency drivers from the subwoofer. So for me, that works. Now, I tested a number of go-to reference tracks, and I noted the two biggest problems I had were really nicely solved by SoundID Reference. It's kind of a lifesaver, really. Bypassing the profile also gave me a lot of clarity about how bad these problems are. And that would be the large bump between about 40 and 70 hertz, and then a really large dip at around 100 to 150 hertz. Now, those were the worst parts by far, but also you can see a number of other frequencies that are off by as much as 3 dB in spots. Now, in the reference tracks I mentioned, the detail was fantastic. Mids and highs were well defined, and there's great stereo separation, and definition in general is outstanding. Now, most of my criticism of the implementation of SoundID into the Apollo interfaces still stands. For example, the fact that correction doesn't pass through to the outputs is a real problem for me, probably the biggest problem. I have a headphone distribution system and different powered speakers which are switched from the Apollo Twin, and so they need their own outputs. And I can't pass the correction through to any of those other outputs. On the other hand, I really like having the correction being in the interface itself and not as a plug-in on the master bus of the DAW or in system-wide, which I just don't trust. So I'll deal with those shortcomings for now to have kind of a North Star set of speakers that I can rely on. I hope this helps you get the most out of your SoundID reference, or helps you to decide whether or not it's worth it to get it for you. I should also mention one other thing. The most dramatic improvement that I experienced with SoundID was on a set of somewhat affordable Yamaha HS5 speakers that you may have. They're pretty popular. They go for about $200 each. I bought these from Client for set of B monitors, pretty lightly used, and they sounded pretty awful to me before I got SoundID involved. I think they're supposed to be like NS10Ms. You know, you can get a good mix on them, but they don't sound great. Of course, I can't use them with SoundID right now because of the Apollo thing I talked about before. But maybe at some point. See you soon.